channel. My name is Maddie, and in this episode I'm going to recap and analyze Traitors Quebec Season 3 Episode 4. We start from a little bit of recap in this episode where Dominic got banished. In their second roundtable, this group of faithfuls already got a traitor and they also backed 10k. So okay, they are doing pretty good, and of course losing a traitor so soon, that means the traitors that are left, like Francois and Genevieve, they were pretty rattled that one of their traitors is already banished. We saw in last episode that Francois actually wanted them to recruit someone because he suspected that he's going to be banished soon, but Genevieve wanted to murder someone, and so I predicted that they are gonna murder someone, and that someone is gonna be Donnie. So that was my prediction, and let's see if I was right or not, and what this episode is gonna be about. So this episode started a breakfast table where first group of people arrived, and among them was Genevieve, and she was saying she was actually relieved that she was one of those first people, because if you comes at the later stages, you have to act like, oh, I am so happy that I'm arrived, or I'm stressed. But at least as she was one of the first one, no one is noticing her expression or anything, so yeah, she was relieved that she was one of the first ones. And as soon as this hit, we immediately saw people talking about Francois, and we saw Patrick and Steve were actually talking about him. And I don't think Patrick suspected Francois before this episode, but I mean the last episode we did saw Francois targeting Patrick, so yeah, I think that is the reason why he's now suddenly suspecting Francois. But of course, there are many people suspecting Francois right now, even Camille was yeah, I am also suspicious of Francois. So it's not even 5 minutes and already people are talking about banishing Francois, so not looking good for him, especially when I said in last episode at least he has one extra round table. I was thinking at that Olivier is gonna be banished sooner than Francois, but I don't think it's not looking good for Francois, let's say that. Then we saw Axel arriving, and he was I am either being super great as a faithful, or I am doing the bidding for the traitors. And I was thinking that if you're doing excellent as a faithful, then I'm pretty sure traitors wouldn't have kept you for this long. I guess they would have murdered you. And so clearly you are doing the bidding for traitors, you are suspecting people that are not actually the traitors, and that's why you are here. I mean, that's a good technique, of course, as long as you are there, it doesn't matter the reason why you are there. Yeah, so he was speculating why he was there. So at that moment Caroline was I was already suspecting Olivier, but right now I even suspect even more, because she was saying to Steve, I think, that previous roundtable, when Dominic announced that she was a traitor, everyone was was joyous, or showing their emotions, and Olivier was not. He looked relieved, he was not at all enthusiastic as the others were. So she was pretty sus about that, and I was thinking no matter what Olivier does, it's gonna be suspicious to Caroline. I don't think that him not being so being so enthusiastic about Dominic revealing as a traitor and leaving is so much so that he's gonna be enthusiastic as them, especially when he's the other person that they are keep targeting to get banished. And also he's probably relieved that he's not gonna be banished that day. So yeah, as I said, no matter what you do, it's always gonna be something suspicious. Then suddenly a new name bring up, we are talking about Olivier, Francois, then suddenly a new name drop for in the suspicious list, and that person is Jacob. I was not expecting that, because I do remember people were saying he is one of the faithfuls, we are sure, but let's just say in this episode he definitely falls from the grace. And also I think that, and they were talking there were when they were this conversation was going about Jacob, there were most of the people were there, and I think the reason why they are being so, I guess, forthcoming in all in front of all of these people is because Jacob is not there, so he's not gonna defend himself or say anything. So that's why people feel just so free to just talk about Jacob and also with the fact that there are so many people there, so most of the people would hear it and people would think like, oh, Jacob might be suspicious, and this becomes even more reason that you would want to come as earlier as possible in the breakfast table, because then first, like, no one could look at your emotions and people might think, oh, you are suspicious because you are not showing an emotion, and second, because no one could talk about you, so people are not going to be able to talk about you there. So yeah, you might, so if you are there, you might want to come as early as possible in the breakfast table. So the reason that some people were suspicious about Jacob suddenly, because Jacob voted for PS the last round, and people didn't understand what is reasoning, because clearly either Olivier or Dominic was going to go home last episode, so it doesn't make any sense. Like, people felt like he wasted his vote and just wasted everyone's time when PS is not gonna be even voted out. So that's why people were like, why did he vote for PS last episode? So yeah, people are becoming sus of him, that's why. And yeah, like, you probably don't want to stand out, like, if like everyone is voting for one person, or maybe there is two people that people are going to vote and you are suddenly just one person who is voting for just some random people, you probably don't want to do that, especially if you have not talked about that person before, like you are suspecting them. Maybe that's at least that's how people would understand, okay, he was talking about PS before, so I understand why he voted for him. But if you are not talking about PS before, and I don't think he was talking about PS before, so that's why I think people are becoming suddenly suspicious of him. And yeah, that makes sense why they were suspicious. So while the people are talking about Jacob and how it's all suspicious, even more information starts to come out. Like Camille said, like in the, I guess, previous roundtable, like before the Dominic banishment, Jacob apparently warned Olivier that people are suspecting him and gonna vote for him. But then he goes and votes for Olivier himself, which of course didn't make any sense to Camille. And also there is another incident that Hilary bring, like in the previous episode, she was like in the corner, like she was spying on Dominic and what she's using as a defense to the others, and two people saw her doing it, which was Steve and Jacob. She was saying to the group that she was spying on Dominic, and the other two, like Steve and Jacob, didn't want to join her. And I was just so confused about Hilary's statement there. Like, why is she bringing that up? Why is that anyways makes Jacob suspicious? Like, I think it would make Larry suspicious. Like, why are you spying on people? Like, you could just come there and hear her talk. Like, it would make Larry suspicious, not Jacob or Steve, who caught her doing it and didn't want to join her. Like, that was so stupid. Like, if that's her, I guess, suspicion on Jacob, I think because people think Larry is definitely a faithful, so that's why whatever she said makes her a faithful. Then we saw the last few people arrive, and it turns out it is Donnie who has been murdered. We are then see the turret and why, the reason why they chose her, and they were like, because Donnie is dangerous player, and if she like, they were thinking that Donnie suddenly suspecting them, so she could be a very dangerous player for them, so that is the reason why they murdered Donnie. And then we see Donnie in her confession, like when she was handed the paper and she was like, okay, I'm murdered. The reason and the reason she thinks that she was murdered, because she wasn't speaking a lot, like she wasn't bringing out people's name, so that's why she thinks that she was murdered. And I was like, wow, like most of the time we see what happens is the banished player would be like, oh, I was a dangerous player, so that's why I am getting killed here. But then we will hear traitors who are like, well, that person is expendable, like I don't know who they are, like it doesn't matter who they are, so that's why we are killing them. So but in this case it was opposite. She was like, oh, maybe I was not saying any names, so that's why I'm murdered. So it's just funny. That's how Donnie interpreted it. But yeah, so she was murdered and people were really upset. Like in the breakfast table, people are saying like, she's the one who brings balance, like whenever emotions runs too high, she's the one who brings them back and think about it logically. And while they were saying that, I could only think, I don't really know much about Donnie, like we have not seen much throughout the whole 3 episodes, so for me to make a statement like, yes, she is that, like she is a dangerous player, or she is, like calm present there. So I have no idea what her personality was like there. So I can only hear their respective perspectives, which is kind of different. Like Donnie's perspective was different and Tita's perspective was different, but it's fun. Like I don't know what's going on in there, but from their perspective, that's how she is. So of course, people are now sitting around in the castle talking about their suspicious people, and of course, people are talking about Oliver and how he could be a traitor. And then, as I said, like suddenly Jacob is one of those people that people are suspicious of, and people were even saying, like Caroline I think said, like, oh, he was one of my like definite faithful, and now he has definitely plummeted down, and I think he could be a traitor. And while the people talking about Jacob come into the group, and he was defending himself, and he was like, well, I have developed friendship with Olivier, and that's why I could not vote for him. And I was thinking, like, what are you doing, dude? Why are you admitting that to people? Then people would definitely vote you out, because then you would seem as a duo, and of course, like a obvious duo is not what people would want. So that's not what he should have said there. And also the fact that you are not going to vote for someone that you like, yeah, like people, I don't think that's a good argument, dude. Like I don't think he should have said that, at least not out loud. Yeah, that's not a good defense. And then see Francois in his confessional saying that he was scared that Patrick is now going to say to the others that Dominic and Francois are actually traitors together, and they are actually sabotaging each other. And that's exactly what we see Patrick doing. And he was saying to the others that they must be traitors together, and they were like maybe betraying each other. And of course Genevieve was there listening to it, and she clearly didn't want Francois to go, because that would be back to back traitors banished, and of course that's what she doesn't want, especially in like it's like a fourth episode. Like of course she doesn't want her traitors to just banished so soon. So she was like saying some subtle things like, oh, maybe he's just being a bit chaotic, he is maybe a naive, so that's why he's doing this, or maybe socially awkward. That's what she was saying to the others. But yeah, don't think it's looking too good for Francois, so maybe you need to look for recruitments. Of course that's what exactly happened, but yeah, right now she was stressing hard. So then we are at the mission, and it's the same mission as the English version, where it's a chase mission, where Traitors the previous night has chosen two teams, and those two teams are faithful teams and Traitors team, who the Traitors think deserve to be a faithful, seen as a faithful, and deserve to be seen as a traitors, I guess. But main thing, there are two teams, and the mission exactly is that, like in each round, one person from each group would stand in the stage, and one person would tell a fact, and would either be a lie or a truth, which the other person who is from the other team has to say, like if it's a true or not. And if they are correct, guessing person would stay and will be back in their team, and the answering person would have to leave the stage and would not be able to get a shield. So the faithful team is Caroline, Carol, Genevieve, Justin, Steve, and PS. The Traitors team was Nada, Axel, Javier, Robert, Olivier, Jacob, Elaine, Francois. Of course, one person is missing through all of this, and that person is Larry. And it is really funny. Like, of course, in this mission, she's not going to be able to get a shield. And it was really funny because before the mission happened, she was telling to the others, like, I need a shield, and the other players were like, yes, we're going to help you get a shield. And it's really funny, and I had to laugh when she could not get a shield in this episode. So clearly some foreshadowing was going in there. So nothing really that much important happened in the mission, but I guess one thing to note is Nada is clearly a dominant person. Like she was indicating to Genevieve like who she should choose between her team, like because Nada is in the Traitors team, so she was like, you should choose Olivier. And Genevieve was like, she was scared, and she was like, yeah, I don't want to be in the Nada's bad side, so that's why I chose Olivier. So I was like, wow, like Nada is clearly in the front of people's mind. I mean, that's a good thing, I guess, because traitors are not going to kill her so soon. But we will see how long that lasts, because she could get banished if she's so forceful to everyone. So the four people who has the shield are Genevieve, Camille, Justin, and Carol. So then we are back at the castle, and people are talking about who are they suspicious of. And while that was happening, we saw another twist. And I don't know if the twist was in the English version or not, I don't remember. But twist is like the four people, they have the shield, right? But Karin gives them an option, like, you could give me all of your shields and I will tell you how many traitors are left right now. And I immediately was like, no, no way, like, no way my shield, let alone four shields, are equal to just knowing how many traitors are there. Like, it's not like we are in, like, I don't know, episode 9 or 10, like we are going to have to know like how many traitors are. Like, even then I would not give my shield. But still, like, the main thing is I have to be there in the last episode, or at least as far as I can, to be able to get any money. So no way I'm going to make myself vulnerable and be killed just to know how many traitors are there. No, no way that's gonna happen. And of course we see the four people discussing, and Carol was actually favored in the idea of just giving the shields, because she was like, oh, we should know, like, we could know how many traitors are there and could give the shield, like no one outside of this group could know. That's why we could actually be protected, and we could also know how many traitors are there. So she was favored of this. But while she was saying it, we immediately saw Justin was like shaking his head vehemently. Like, he was like, there's no way he's going to give the shield. And his reasoning was like, there could be a traitor in here, so it doesn't protect us just because we didn't tell anyone from outside of this. Like, anyone in here could be a traitor, so that's why you should not give out our shields. The others were like, yeah, it makes sense. I actually have to say, there is one thing about this logic that Justin said is like, if there's actually a traitor inside of these four people, like, they are protected either way. Because if there's actually a traitor in this among those four people, that means, let's say one of them gets killed, then the other people would definitely banish the other three. So no way a traitor would actually risk that and could get banished there. So yeah. And also the fact, if there wasn't actually any traitor in those four people, among those four people, then still they're protected, because I don't think the other people would know. Like, they were given a choice of choosing either to have a shield or not. So as I said, they are safe actually in either way. But still I wouldn't have given my shield. So yeah, it makes sense why they did not give them that shield. But we did saw Camille was now suspicious of Carol, like how she was so ready to just give her shield, as if she wasn't scared of being killed. So yeah, I don't think Carol should be so ready to just say that. So they declined this offer and they were back in the castle. Then we see people were talking about how there's definitely going to be recruitment, and people are saying like, if Francois is actually a traitor, and that would leave only one person left in the traitor tower, so that means there would be a recruitment. So we see Elaine actually telling Larry, like, you are so super faithful, so you might get recruited. And Larry was like, no, I would quit the show if I have to recruit, because it would be an ultimatum then. So she was like, I would quit the show. And I'm pretty sure she was just saying that, because try so hard to be able to play in Traitors, like so many millions, like thousands of people would love to be in a position. So no way she's actually would quit, but she was saying that to appease Elaine. So yeah, then we see Olivier is talking to Robert, and he was like, no matter what I say, it would always be suspicious to people, but I'm going to keep defending what I am doing. I was like, yeah, good for you. Like, even though he's being putting so much pressure on him, like people are like grilling him, at least he was like, I'm going to keep fighting and would try to stay in the castle. So yeah, good for him to have that kind of mentality. So then we saw people really grilling, and Francois was defending himself. He was like, I suspected Olivier, so that's why I voted. And then Nada and Javier immediately jumped on him, and they were like, but you voted for Dominic, and even threw suspicion on PS, so your action doesn't make any sense. Like, you were saying you were suspicious of Olivier, but then your action is totally different to what you were saying. And then we saw Nada really grilling him, and she was like, step up, like, say whatever you want to say, like, you need to step up and say, like, you are suspicious of Olivier, why are you not doing that? She was like really killing him. I really think that Nada maybe doesn't like Francois, and Of course, I don't want to be in the Nada's bad side, because yeah, she was like, yeah, why are you not stepping up? It was like, chill down, Nada, chill down. So yeah, we cut to the round table, and in confessional, Genevieve was like, the last round table it was Dominic on Olivier, and in this round table it's Francois Olivier, and I really don't want to lose my fellow traitors back to back. And I was thinking, yeah, I think it's definitely going to be Francois. Like, I was previously thinking it could be, it's probably going to be Olivier this episode, but yeah, no, I think the way the people were saying, I think it would be Francois there. Axel starts talking. Like, he was like, every time me and Francois talks, every time I ask him, give me names, like, who are you suspicious of? You can't just say any names. You are always, like, couldn't say any names. And Francois was, like, defending himself. He was like, I observe and I watch. And he was, like, clearly bumbling around, like, clearly he wasn't really answering the question. And Axel was like, maybe you didn't understand what my question is, but I am asking, why are you not giving out names? And I was thinking, like, but he did give out a name, like the last episode he was bringing up PS's name, but maybe he didn't do anything after that. Like, maybe he didn't say anything like, oh, I am really suspicious of PS. Like, he just said that in the round table and didn't say anything after that. So yeah, that's what he did there. Then yeah, so no wonder people are really suspicious of him. And yeah, he is clearly not doing good. And even talk about the Steve was asking Francois, like in the tomb mission, like in the well mission, when Larry and Camille was in deep in there, and Francois was saying to them, like, you're not gonna target me or not target me, right? Like, as opposed to bringing them the sticks. Of course, he was like bartering, like, can you promise that you are not going to bring up my name, so that I will give you the sticks and you will be saved? So people were like, yeah, why did you do that? And he was like, oh, because we have some kind of power over them. And immediately Robert was like, okay, so you are clearly not a good Samaritan that you are portraying here, if you are using that as a power move. So no matter what he does, what he says, he's cooked. Then we saw Caroline bringing up Olivier's name, and she was already, saying his name in the first place. But then she says, like, there's another point, and that point is what she said in the breakfast earlier. He was like, why didn't you show much emotions during the last round table when Dominic got banished? And he was like, I can't wait to see when someone gets their name being thrown out this much, like me, and how would they react? And while he was, having the defense, I was like nodding my head. I was like, yeah, that is a very good defense. And I think that is one of the reasons, like, he seems so faithful, and he was talking pretty good there. And I think that is the reason why, even though he is being brought up as being very suspicious, but he's still not getting banished right now. Like, I don't know how long it's gonna last, because I think people are gonna say, like, we have to banish him. Even if we really think he's not, but we have so much suspicion on him, he could be a traitor. So I don't think he could be for long in this series, but still he's at least there, and that is a good difference actually. So yeah, the voting round came, like, everyone had to vote, and it was a 13-4 Francois vote. So except Carol, Caroline, Jacob and Francois himself, people voted for Francois. And I was like, well, Genevieve, get ready for your new fellow player, because of course he's a traitor, and everything exploded, everyone exploded. And while they were exploding, Karen was like, well, I will see you later. And clearly that's an indication of recruitment, that something is going to happen that night. And of course people were immediately clocked that and was like, okay, there's definitely going to be a recruitment that night. Before we talk about the recruitment though, we did saw Steve bringing up PS's name, and he was like, I think PS is as much likely to crack as the other two did. Even if he isn't a traitor right now, PS could crack as easily as the other two traitors, like the Francois and Dominic. So, and Genevieve was in that conversation while Steve was bringing that up. I was like, interesting, very interesting that they bring it up, very interesting. And we, of course, all around the castle, people were really speculating, like, who could be getting recruited. And of course it's going to be an ultimatum. I mean, of course they don't know that there could be actually 4 traitors from the very start, but I think people were suspecting that it is going to be an ultimatum. And they were like, Axel, Nada, Genevieve, they could get recruited there. So all around suspicion is going on, because who knows who's going to be recruited then. And then of course we cut to the graveyard. In there, people were brought in there with blindfolds on, and where Genevieve had to choose a fellow traitor among those players. And we see Camille and Axel like clearly wanted to be recruited there. And we also saw Lady definitely shaking her head while Genevieve was thinking who she's gonna get as the fellow traitor, and Ellie was like, no, I am doing pretty good as a faithful and I want to stay as faithful, so please do not choose me. So we have different contrast feelings there. So of course we saw Genevieve choosing PS. I was not expecting that, and her reasoning was that PS is not gonna be able to betray me before I betray him. So that is the reason why I choose him. And clearly he was shocked, and he even told Genevieve like, I didn't suspect you at all. Like, you are in the bottom of my list of suspects. And of course Genevieve had to ask like, well, are you going to join me or not? And of course he was like, I'm gonna join you. And that's how we ended up with Genevieve and PS as our new traitor duo. We'll see how this team goes, I guess. Before the episode ends, they were talking about who they are going to murder. They were talking about Axel, Nada, and Steve there. So my prediction is, I think Steve is going to get murdered here. Especially like before the graveyard scene, we saw that Steve was talking about PS and how he could be suspicious. So I think we are shown that, so that maybe we could see that Steve is going to get murdered there, because yeah, I don't think they are going to murder Axel and Nada so soon. Like, I think they are going to be at least be there for a little bit. So I think they are going to murder Steve there, and that is my prediction. Now who is going to be banished now? Well, I only have two names that I can say. I think it's going to be either Olivier or Jacob. So I don't know, like, is Olivier going to be finally be banished, or people are going to be moving on from that, especially now that there is a recruitment there? I have no idea, but I have to choose someone, and I think I'm going to have to choose Olivier. Like, I have no idea who is going to be, so I'm going to have to choose Olivier, because if I don't choose him and he does get banished, I'll be like, of course he's going to be banished. So I'm going to choose he's going to be banished. So let's talk about her choice, like Genevieve's choice of PS. I'm going to be honest, I really didn't get it. Like, I think she could have chosen like maybe Caroline, or maybe Robert, because I get it, like she was like, it is going to be very easy to throw PS under the bus, and I'm pretty sure she was like, I do not want like a Axel, Nada, or maybe Camille there, who is going to be pretty dominant. Like, they're going to want to have their voices heard too. So maybe that's why she chose PS, because she could have control there. So it makes sense. But I'm also like, he could get banished soon, because Steve is suddenly talking about PS. But we will see. Like, if Steve is going to be murdered soon, then maybe PS could get off the hook. And there is a lot of people there too. So Genevieve would not want to have another traitor banished so soon. So yeah, I think so. I would say an average pick, I would say, because I have no idea how this is gonna play out. So I can only say it's as good as it could become. So yeah, that is mainly the episode. Yeah, it was a good episode. Like, we saw some tensions, and of course new name came along, which is Jacob, and I didn't see it coming, and I even people there did not see it coming. So we'll see how he handles it. I don't know if his name is gonna be brought up again, because his name did circulated earlier in the episode, but people weren't really talking about it in the later stages. So maybe he's off the hook now, but anything could happen. So yeah, looking forward to it. I really looking forward to it. How Genevieve is gonna do now. Like, her fellow traitors are dropping like flies. So hope she is gonna be there, at least as long as she can, because I really like her. Well, that is for this video. If you liked my reaction, like and subscribe to my channel. I will see you next time.